What is going on today, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This video, 2000 7.3 Powerstroke, came in for a bunch of problems, but mostly a no start. I'm going to show you what we did to diagnose it and to get her back up and running, so come along. All right, so first things first, came in with no communication with ECM. So wasn't running, wouldn't even fire, wouldn't sputter, wouldn't do nothing. You could put ether to it, blah, blah, blah. Customer did that. Would not fire, would not buck, would not do anything. So I found that it had a tuner on it, and that tuner was causing the no start. So once I pulled the tuner off, on 7.3s there's a chip that goes on the back of the PCM, so sometimes they can cause problems with communication with the rest of the vehicle. Once I got that off, I got communication back with ECM and cranked her over. Was not building high pressure oil pressure, go figure. So as it was cranking, gave it a little spritz. What that did, brought the RPM up high enough to it would hit 500 PSI and start. So that indicates a leak in the high pressure oil system. Now, my IPR was duty cycling at 65%. So IPR was putting max effort into the system to try to get it to start, but it was only building 260 PSI. Not enough to start, needs at least 500. So I got my gauge out, started isolating heads to figure out which side could potentially have a leak or if it was a bad high pressure pump. So to isolate the heads, these are the two feed lines. This braided line here, braided line here. You have to take the fitting out of each head and put it on a gauge. I'm not sure what I did with my gauge. Once I got done diagnosing, I put it away. Ah, there it is. So, this here's my gauge. Bunch of fittings, plug in the end, hydraulic hose to a gauge. Now, since it's a high pressure oil system, if it spikes, it can hit like 3,000 to 4,000 PSI. So you need a pretty hefty gauge. This one goes to 5,000. So once I capped the driver's side head, cranked it over, pressure spiked to 3,000 PSI. So I knew my leak was on that side of the head. Pulled the valve covers off pulled the driver's side valve cover off, pulled the injectors out. This is what I found. So this is your injector. Down here goes in the cup. This obviously goes into the cylinder head. This part here is filled with fuel. This part here is filled with high pressure oil. If this O-ring leaks, you can get oil going into your fuel, and the truck will smoke. Your fuel will be getting oil put in it. Because their high pressure oil is a minimum of 500 PSI and the fuel pressure is only a maximum of like 60. So if this O-ring fails, they will leak this way and you'll get high pressure oil going into your fuel, and you can also get a no start because this pressure will bleed off into here. So on this truck, this O-ring, these two O-rings failed. So what that did was create a leak between here, and the high pressure oil was just flowing past these two injectors into the head. To pull the injectors is pretty simple on this thing. I've already got them out and done with, so this is just it going back together. So I don't know if you can see, but back here, there's a cap there. You want to pull that plug out. There's another one up further, right here. You want to pull that one out. And what that does is takes all the oil from in the rail here and just drains it back in. But the head is still going to have fuel and oil in the galleys in the head for the injectors. to minimize the amount that gets in the injectors, into the injector holes, so you don't have to purge like a ton out later. The engine itself is angled backwards, so you just want to pull the back injector first, and pretty much everything, most of it anyway, that is in the head will drain into one cylinder. So then you only have to really purge this cylinder. It just makes things easier for down the road. And then to purge it, you'll put the injector in, take the glow plugs out, and then just bar it over by hand until you clear most of it out. And then you can actually take the starter and crank the rest of it out of there. And you'll just get like a mist come out of the glow plug holes. If you don't want to do the glow plug method, then there are some companies that sell, what do you call it? Extractor tools, which is basically a hose on a little vacuum pump that goes down in, and you just sucker gun the fluid out. But the glow plug way works good too. So I'm gonna get this stuff purged out and get her fired up. So we got our injectors and everything back in, purged the cylinders out. So everything should be good to go. I had to redo the wastegate rubbers because they were rotted right out and leaking. So now, time to go over to the scanner, crank her over, get her bled out. So there we have it, guys. Got our 7.3 Powerstroke diagnosed and fixed. Just a couple of burnt O-rings. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this video informational and informative and liked what you saw. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.